You know, when you see this incredible building, that golden dome shining over Jerusalem, there's one story that almost always comes to mind. But what if the building itself, its very blueprint, is telling a completely different story? All right, let's get into it. The story we've all been told, the one you'll find in pretty much every textbook, is this. It's the Dome of the Rock, built way back in 691 CE by the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik. For centuries, that's just been the accepted fact. But what if we look a little closer? What if the architecture, the stones themselves, and a nearly forgotten piece of history, what if they all point to the idea that the Caliph was maybe just finishing a project that someone else started? That's the mystery we're going to try and piece together today. Okay, so our first big clue isn't hidden in some ancient scroll. It's right there in the open, in the design of the building itself. It's a real architectural outlier for its time and place, and that's where our investigation kicks off. So get this, early Islamic mosques, they had a pretty standard design. Big, rectangular halls for prayer, all facing towards Mecca. But the Dome of the Rock, it's completely different. It's an octagon, a shape designed to pull your focus inward, to a single sacred thing at its center, the foundation stone. Now, this design wasn't really an Islamic thing at the time. You know what it was? It was the classic style of a Byzantine martyrium, basically a church built to mark a holy spot. And this wasn't just some one-off thing. No way. This octagonal style was all over the place in the 5th and 6th centuries. You see it in huge, important churches, like the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, the Kathisma Church near Jerusalem, and others. The architectural DNA of the Dome of the Rock, it's screaming Byzantine, not early Umayyad. So the question is, why? And to answer that, we have to uncover this short, super dramatic, and often completely overlooked period in Jerusalem's history. It's a lost chapter that gives us both a powerful motive and a window of opportunity for a massive building project right on the Temple Mount. This timeline right here, it is everything. For hundreds of years, Jerusalem was ruled by the Byzantine Christians. But in 614 CE, everything changed. The Persians swept in and conquered the city. But not alone. They had help. And for this brief, fleeting moment, just 16 years, Jerusalem was under Jewish autonomous rule. It's in this tiny little window that our whole story pivots. And this alliance is the key. The Persian king, Posra II, he teams up with Jewish leaders like Hushiel and his son Nehemiah and Benjamin of Tiberias. And they don't just talk, they raise an army. Think about that. A Jewish army of over 20,000 soldiers. In 614, after a siege, they take Jerusalem. And the prize for this alliance? The Persians gave the Jews control over their holy city with one huge goal in mind, to finally rebuild the temple and bring back the ancient sacrifices. So, they finally had it, control of the Temple Mount, the place they dreamed of for centuries. The big question is, what did they do with it? Did they actually start building? Well, let's see what the clues in stone and ancient scrolls have to tell us. Wow, just listen to this. This is a line from a liturgical poem called a Piyut, written by a rabbi, Eleazar HaKalir, who was actually alive during this time. He writes that they got permission to build a holy temple, that they built an altar, that they offered sacrifices, but then he says this crucial part. They did not have time to build the entire holy temple. This is a voice from that exact moment in time telling us that something began on the Temple Mount. And it's not just ancient poems. The archaeology seems to be telling the same story. Researchers have found that the columns, the capitals, all the architectural bits in the Dome of the Rock are actually recycled. They're older Byzantine and Roman pieces collected from other buildings. Byzantine-style mosaics were found right next door under the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And maybe most telling, the Temple Mount Sifting Project has found tons of Byzantine-era building materials, which completely contradicts the old story that the area was just a garbage dump. Clearly, there was major construction happening. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, you said the style is Byzantine. Doesn't that mean Byzantine Christians built it? And that's a great point. But here's the thing. In the 7th century, that was the style of the land. It's totally plausible that Jewish builders, finally able to build their sacred house, would use the materials and the architectural language that was all around them. It was simply the style of the day. Okay, let's put the pieces together. We have a motive, the centuries-old dream of a new temple. We have the opportunity, that incredible window of Jewish autonomy starting in 614, and we have architectural and archaeological clues that all point in a very interesting direction. So what new story, what alternative history starts to emerge? Well, the theory goes something like this. In 614, the Jewish community starts building. They choose the octagonal style of the time, and they build it right over the foundation stone. But, like the poem said, they run out of time. In 630, the Byzantines come back. They find this unfinished Jewish holy site, and they turn it into a church. Then, just 8 years later, the Muslim Caliph Omar arrives. So what happens under early Muslim rule? This quote from an 11th century Islamic scholar, al-Wasiti, is just mind-blowing. He writes that the Jews were lighting the menorah at Beit al-Maqdis, the Holy Temple, well into the Islamic period, all the way up to around 720 CE. This points to an amazing continuity of Jewish worship right there at the site. And that name is a huge clue. For hundreds of years, the Arabic name for the site wasn't something else. It was Beit al-Maqdis. And that's not just some random name. It's a direct borrowing, almost a transliteration, of the Hebrew name for the temple, Beit HaMikdash. The name itself carried the memory of what was there before. So you see, this isn't just some dusty old historical debate. How you interpret the origin of this building, even what you call it, has become a central and really intense issue in the modern world. The fight for its past has become a fight for its present and its future. Take a close look at this. This is an official Jordanian government tourist map from 1965, just 2 years before the Six-Day War. It clearly labels the whole compound Al-Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, and its specifically accepted way of describing the place. Now, hold that map in your mind and listen to this statement from 2002. Sheikh Akrima Sabri, the former Mufti of Jerusalem, says that Al-Aqsa means the entire 144 dunam compound, the Dome of the Rock, the plazas, the walls, everything. It's a total redefinition. Sometime after 1967, the meaning of the name completely changed. So why? Why the change? The sources we're looking at argue that this wasn't an accident. It was a direct response to Jewish calls after 1967 to build a synagogue on the Mount. By redefining the entire compound as the sacred Al-Aqsa Mosque, it makes any Jewish structure anywhere on the plaza an attack on the mosque itself. But it goes even deeper than politics. According to the sources, at its core, this is a theological conflict. The view presented is that Islam sees itself as Din al-Haq, the religion of truth, which came to complete and supersede earlier religions. From that perspective, a renewed Jewish claim to their most holy site isn't just a political problem. It's a fundamental challenge to that theological order. So who really built this incredible place? Was it the grand project of an Umayyad caliph built from scratch? Or was it an unfinished Jewish temple, later turned into a church and finally adopted by Muslim rulers, who, at first, respected its Jewish roots? In the end, the stones hold their secrets close. The answer to who built this sacred space, well, it might just depend on which history you choose to read and which clues you decide to follow.